he was standing
I'll
up,
stay
like,
standing.
let's go ahead and stand for this last one, and Brother Toby can sit. while y'all stand. Page 41. Page 41.
Page 41? I'm 43 about.
Did anybody go do youth hunt this weekend? Hey guys. Miss Ruth, you can go down because we're not going to sing again. Did anybody go youth hunt this weekend? Anybody? Did you get one? Okay. Heath didn't get to go, sorry. Well, is it still available? Can you still do it today? Like, can you still do it? So, just ask John if you can go sit out there. You got any deer at your place?
I'm sure there are, but I can't confirm those or not.
But, just ask somebody where you can go hunting, and then you gotta talk to your mom and take you. Isn't that bad? The mom's gotta take them out. So, but I know Rusty and Henry got a deer, and they got a deer last weekend because they went to Missouri too.
They got 2 deer.
Yeah.
Now, Kay got a deer this morning.
He got it this morning. Well, I was wondering if he was gonna, I never heard, and I didn't hear anything yesterday, and I thought, well, maybe he'll get one this morning. So, it was at a buck,
Hang on. It was on Facebook.
probably bigger than yours, he.
Probably. Just kidding. Hang on. I don't know. I'll look.
Yeah, that's fine. As you know, I don't go hunting too much, but I know Heath really wants to get on the buck again this year. If he doesn't get to go today, he can go. Thanksgiving will be in Yellow weekend. So let's have Brother Heath, if you'll come up to the offering, we're going to take an offering, and then we'll go ahead and go. Cody and Evan are in Melville, and they shot it up there. I guess there's deer down here too. There's deer right here somewhere. Paul, you have any deer? You see them much? Just don't shoot them much.
Just here and there.
Yeah. Well, Heath, if you'll pray for the offering.
God, thank you for everyone to stay safe, and thank you for everyone being here today. And please help us to stay safe through Christmas and Thanksgiving. God, I love you, God. Amen.
Amen. And Miss Ruth, I'm assuming you got ours, right? Okay. Because I was looking for it in the bedroom. I thought, well, she probably took it and spent it at Walmart. And then we're going to go ahead and dismiss class. Once, no, we don't understand
It wasn't on Facebook. It was on
It was on Instagram. It was on Pinterest.
Yeah.
That's why Glenn didn't see it, right?
Who uses Facebook anymore,
Yeah. It's on Pinterest, right? All right, so Sunday school class, if y'all go ahead and Miss Ruth's got a class today. And as those kids go back, I do want to remind y'all to pray for Miss Pam. How's she feeling? She's doing pretty good. Yeah.
Good though.
Is it similar to last time or quite
Worse.
Quite a bit worse? Well, figured it would be, but yeah.
Here you go, Jody.
They probably saw some yesterday and were like, let's wait for a buck, and then today they were like, okay, we gotta just go for the doe, right? Go
More
for the
chance
doe.
for you.
I mean, if I went hunting now, I would go for the doe because I just like the deer meat
Well,
mainly,
see,
so
we were
that's my,
talking about that yesterday, Mom and Dad were out,
yeah.
and up north in Iowa and Illinois, they only have 2 deer seasons, and one's 3 days and one's 5 days.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They're like, it's not this long drawn out deer season. You go, you shoot it, you don't, wait till next time.
That's what it used to be around here and it changed.
Yeah, it changes it, and well, and like I said, it does make some people, and it depends on the hunter, you know, some hunters, you know, once you get a pretty big buck, then you start looking for bigger bucks, and you just kind of let some go, but then there's some guys, they're gonna shoot spike right off, or whatever they can legally get. This is just to name some of the kids, which you don't have every kid in the church's name on there, I think we forgot something. Wednesday, we made this little list, but we actually are gonna take some pictures and make a sheet with some pictures of the kids by their names. And, some of these new kids we're picking up, Miss Ruth knows their names really well. She's got it really down, but some of them it's hard. And 3 of them in the past week got saved. And so, you know, I dealt with Tyrese, which Tyrese, I believe, was sitting by Tyrese Harris.
So which ones of these off of here have been?
Tyrese, and then Jim.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Jim talked to, actually Wednesday, he wanted to talk Sunday night, but we were dealing with 2 other boys, and it was just, we tried to just have separate the kids if we're talking to them, because you know how that goes. And so we didn't really have a third person to work with it, so Ruth said, Jim, we'll talk to you. Well, Wednesday, first thing he did, he came in and said, can somebody talk to me right now? And the other one's Jaquarion, I guess. Yeah. And what's funny is there's another kid that came Wednesday night with the same name. But not the same last name, but same first name, Jaquarion. But
They're both so different.
But he's not on the list, because we just made that up before church Wednesday, one thing that I noticed is like talking with Tyrese, I mean, he didn't know, a lot of stuff, didn't know about Adam and Eve, never even really heard about Adam and Eve, and so to talk about that a little bit, but then talk about sin, of course he knew what doing bad was, he knew what, you know, but he never just heard the word sin. And we're going to see more of that, you know, as the generations go, because we've had people in their 30s who did not know, you know, just like when you talk about Sunday school, they're like, what's Sunday school? You know, I've never heard of that. And so, and that sounds weird, but also when I got saved, I didn't know much about Sunday school, because the Catholic Church doesn't necessarily do Sunday school. So I grew up Catholic, and it was like, they had just Mass, and, you know, that's all. And, of course, we were all about the rules, and the rules are simply this. Go to Mass. That's the only thing that really matters. Go to Mass, and they started doing it where you do Mass on Saturday. You can do, now in Conway, I think you can do a Friday Mass. So I think you can do a Thursday night Mass, a Friday night Mass, and you can do a Saturday and a Sunday, of course, Mass. I think it's Saturday night, and then Sunday they have a Sunday morning Mass, and they have a Sunday night. But you wouldn't go to 2 of them because they're going to be the same. They're going to be exactly the same, like the different songs they sing will be the same. The times you have to repeat after them, different things, that'd be the same. The message would be the same, which the message is just, usually they'll have a scripture that's picked out, and they'll have what's called a liturgy. They have a book, and they kind of explain that. And so I didn't know what Sunday school was. I went to Catholic school, and plus something else the Catholics never did. They didn't do VBS, you know, they didn't do stuff like that. In fact, nothing fun at all was done in the church. It was like, you know, Everybody acted like a totally different person when they came into the Catholic Church because usually I wore a suit every Sunday, and usually I slept every Sunday when I went, but that was because my mom took us to the 8 a.m. Mass, and 8 a.m. was a little bit early, a little early. Okay, so you're coming back, they got them under control, you think? They split them up, or do they do a joint?
Yeah, they just went halfsies.
All right, well, in Proverbs this morning, I was telling them, the ones that got saved, I think I'm right, was Jaquarion, is it the one that's on the list that talked to? No, it's the other one that wasn't on the list, that got saved. But you don't know his last name, do you?
I don't know.
Because he was,
Was it Jacorion Martin?
no, it was the other one then, okay. Well, it was like he just came Sunday night, there's like 2 new ones Sunday night, right? Or just him? On Wednesday night.
Well, Jim, and he's not here.
Yeah, I know, Jim got saved, I'm just saying, but 2 kids.
Yeah, Jim's older brother, Demari, and
Jim,
Jim.
okay.
Demarion Folks? Or
Um,
Demarion?
Yeah. Well,
I guess he's got the same as Jim, yeah.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, because some of them
Like the
don't
one
have
where
the
I
same,
remember.
some of them don't have the same last name, but some of them do. Proverbs 29, and I just want to talk about this. I'm thankful for them getting saved, and what I'm seeing is, like you said, the church almost has to rethink its, of course you want families in church, but the truth is, today you gotta kind of start from scratch, right? There's a lot of kids out there that don't know anything, and then the parents don't know anything about the Bible either. And it's getting to where it's almost like, well, what's the point of even being in church, right? What's the point? Because they've lived their life so long. I mean, you can imagine living your life for, a long time with no church and not understand why go to church or what to do. So we got a lot of work to do, and I appreciate the kids are doing better. Ruth's working with them and trying to get them to, of course, with Cody and Evan on here this morning, like I said, we're trying to get them to go sit by adults during the service, work with them, and get them doing that, and they've been doing better on that, and I appreciate that. And she's working with them on singing special, and probably singing something at Thanksgiving breakfast. And actually, we'll do a text out, but we have just a little sheet. If there's something you want to bring to Thanksgiving breakfast, you can write it on that list. You can just a breakfast item, but we'll send out a text also and kind of get that. And of course, we always try to have, certain things like eggs, and of course we always bring like milk and orange juice and milk and have coffee. And that's sometimes what other people want to bring though. They say, well, I'll bring the milk because it's easy whenever. It's kind of like everyone likes to bring corn to fellowships, right? That's her thing, because she makes a certain kind of corn, which is really just corn with a lot of butter, right? But which is good. But,
And like a block of cream
No,
cheese.
corn, cream cheese.
oh,
milk,
cream, cheese, and butter.
butter.
Okay. Yeah, and it's good, right? It makes it very good, right? And it's not too complicated to make. That's kind of stuff I can do. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, we'll try to do pack a pew. I'm going to talk with my kids, and our goal is going to be to, of course, our kids. It'd be easy for our kids to pack a pew with other kids. They love to go visiting. My kids are pretty excited about other kids getting saved. And that's one thing. We should get excited about kids getting saved as much as we get excited about adults getting saved. It's the same thing, right? In fact, kids, Joe was able to lead one of the kids to the Lord. Yeah.
None of the kids were informed about daylight savings.
Oh, they didn't know that existed.
Everybody thought I forgot them today.
Yeah. They're like, why didn't you come in? They thought the time was wrong. Yeah, we thought everybody had cell phones, even kids now. So you think they would just know that the time was different, right? I would vote against daylight savings if I could, but they haven't rolled it out. But I don't need it that bad, right? I would be okay without it, but
Arkansas is trying to keep it, like, instead of falling back, they're trying to keep it the same.
yeah, keep it the same year round, yeah. Because it doesn't matter, like at your job or whatever, they don't care. They're gonna make you come in whatever time you come in, right? But we just need to pray for these kids that got saved. And Joe was talking, he had led one of the kids to the Lord after Wednesday night class. Ruth was helping, and Joe was able to take one of the kids while she was doing that. And then, he was like, man, he was excited about it. He helped them and try to, he didn't want to just lead them into a prayer like he wants them to understand and be able to pray. But the kid didn't even know how to pray, so he was working on that. And he was pretty excited about it. And we were talking about it. We said, you never know, like you just lead somebody to the Lord, you never know if they're saved or not. That's between them and God, right? You just do that. And the truth is, there's people who we know all the time that think they got saved when they were a kid and they didn't get saved till later, but that's not always the fault of the person leading them to the Lord. Sometimes that's just because I think those people wanted to get saved when they said it, but maybe something in their heart was holding back a little bit or whatever. Ruth was that way as a 6-year-old, and my kids all got saved early, and we want to be available. If they think they're not saved later, we don't want to dismiss that. We don't want to say, hey, if you don't think you're saved, well, then maybe you do need to pray, right? And just because the devil sure wants to throw doubt. But I know some of these kids, they're not going to get a lot of Bible teaching at their house, and they're not going to get a lot of discipleship there. And so we're going to have to be examples for them and help them. Proverbs 29, I just want to do this lesson because, honestly, this lesson is kind of one that I'd like to teach for myself. And also, I think we need it in America today. But in verse 6, it says, in the transgression of an evil man there is a snare, but the righteous does sing and rejoice. The righteous considereth the cause of the poor, but the wicked regardeth not to know it. Scornful men bring a city into a snare, but wise men turn away wrath. If a wise man contendeth with a foolish man, whether he rage or laugh, there is no rest. The bloodthirsty hate the upright, but the just seek his soul. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it till afterwards. Lord, we love you, and I just ask you to help as we look at just this word that's in your word, Lord. Do a study of it and see different times it's mentioned, and maybe it could help us, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, the word I want to talk about is the word contention. Contention. It's found through the Bible many times, and it says in Proverbs 29:9 there, it says, if a wise man contendeth with a foolish man, whether he rage or laugh, there is no rest. So it's about two men, one's wise, one's foolish, but it doesn't matter who he is. There's no rest in contention. In other words, it's gonna take your energy away, right? Just contending with them. I studied the word contention. Here's a quick definition. It is a debate coming to the point of a lost relationship, or verbally coming to blows, then mentally coming to blows that may lead to physically coming to blows. Okay? So I may have reworded that from the definition in Webster, right? But it's, and you can do mental blows on people. You don't just hit them with your fist. You can do it in your mind. And another definition, debate that brings discord, fighting that brings discord, or fussing that brings strife. So it's fighting with a little extra attitude. It's like, let's just say fighting and discord, which the word discord, of course, Miss Ruth plays piano, so she knows about a chord, right? Playing a chord in music. And discord is just out of harmony, right? I mean, it just sounds horrible. Like a chord is supposed to be something that sounds good. It works together, and that's what we have in songs, right? But discord is whenever your kids get on the piano, and they're that's discord, right? And that's usually what kids do on pianos. Luckily, my kids know how to play the piano, so at least when they're being loud with it, it's a song. But still, it's loud. But it's right when they're walking through to go to the bathroom, so they have to hit something every time. It's just probably the biggest phrase in their house is, no piano right now, no piano right now. I have to say that a lot. We'll give you a certain time for piano, but not right now. Contention is not always bad in the Bible. In fact, when we hear the word contention, we think it's bad, but it's not always bad. If you're contending for the right thing, it's good. So we'll talk about that a little bit, such as law keepers contend with law breakers so they don't break the law. That's good. You have to contend if you're a police officer and someone's resisting arrest, you have to contend with them. That needs to be done. Just anything like that. If you got to stop somebody, you got to stop somebody. One time at Lake Beaver Fork at camp, Brother Kent, one of the kids in line at camp, pulled out a knife, and Brother Kent saw that, and immediately Brother Kent just grabbed that kid's wrist and just threw his wrist up against the tree. knock that knife out of his hand. And that was a good contention, right? He should, that's a good thing to do. I don't know what the kid was doing with the knife. He's probably just going to whittle a stick, right? But we don't know. I mean,
Well, he didn't argue.
he was arguing with someone, so those are good times at camp, right? But, so Proverbs 28:4 says, they that forsake the law praise the wicked, but such as keep the law contend with them. So when you and I keep the law, we contend with lawbreakers, is basically what it's saying. When you follow the rules, you're actually contending with people who don't follow the rules, because they see you following the rules. Like on the interstate, if everybody was going 85, it's kind of like, hey, we're good to go. Who's going to get in trouble, right? If everybody's going 85. But then there's that one grandpa going 70, right? And everybody's like, oh. Now it's so noticeable that we're breaking the law because he's going the right speed. And, so if someone, it's just like in class when they will give you a curve, there'll be a test, everybody will get a D or F on it, and there'll be that one nerd who gets an A. And you'll just be so mad at them because you'll go, see, if everybody got D or F, the teacher would think the test was too hard and they'd give us a curve and we'd be okay. But because you made an A, then they're like, well, if they made an A, anybody could have made an A, And, so I tried to always make sure before test I would get the word out in class. I'd say, don't do your best. Don't do your best, okay? Remember, Miss So-and-so gives us curves on our grades, right? And, but the nerd always did their best. That's just, that's just it. So, when a kid keeps the rules, they actually contend with the ones not keeping the rules. You ever notice that? Because it's like, because even a parent will bring up the kid that's keeping the rules. They'll be like, well, your brother doesn't have a problem with doing it. And the brother's sitting there like, why are you going to bring me into this? I'm just trying to do the right thing. But it does contend with it. So now we're told that we should contend for the faith. So that word contend is used for the faith. In Jude, verse 3, there's only one chapter. So, beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation, it was needful for me to write unto you and exhort you that you should earnestly contend for the faith which was once delivered unto the saints. So, in other words, to contend for it means to stand up for it. Stand up for the Bible, church, and Jesus and salvation, all that. 1 Thessalonians 2, verse 2. But even after that we'd suffered before and were shamefully entreated, as you know, at Philippi, we were bold in our God to speak unto you the gospel of God with much contention. In other words, they were kind of fighting, if you will, to just tell the gospel. They wanted to get the gospel out. They wanted to do that. So we should contend for the gospel or the faith. We should contend for the house of God, Nehemiah 13:11. Then contended I with the rulers and said, why is the house of God forsaken? And I gathered them together and set them in their place. So he was contending for the house of God. So Nehemiah was saying, hey, I had to argue with these rulers about it. Nehemiah 13:17 says, then I contended with the nobles of Judah and said to them, what evil thing is this that you do and profane the Sabbath day? And so he was contending for the Sabbath day. He was contending for the house of God. And those words are used. In other words, he was fighting for it. Even Jesus, turned the tables over. We always talk about that. We use that as our example of anger, right? He turned the tables over, right? But he was many times contending with different people about different topics. And debating with them, if you will, or whatever, trying to change their mind. So he was contending. And then it says in Nehemiah 13:25, and I contended with them, and cursed them, and smote certain of them, and plucked off their hair, and made them swear by God, saying, you shall not give your daughters unto their sons, nor their daughters unto your sons, or for yourselves. So what actually he was telling these guys was, don't let your kid marry somebody who's not saved, is basically what he's saying. Don't let your kid marry someone who's not, of the religion not of Israel, right? That believes in the true God. And he actually smote their beards off and made them, swear by God they wouldn't do that, right? So he's got these men, he's pulling the hair out of their face, and he's saying, swear by God you're not going to let your daughters marry lost people, and you're not going to let your sons marry lost people. And so that sounds like contending. So contention in the Bible is not always a sin. Like when the word contend is used, it's not always used in a bad way. but it's used a lot as a bad way. And so we're going to look at some of the times that it's considered a sin, but I want to say it's not always a sin. It's good to take a stand for something sometimes. You know, we're seeing that in other countries, like in Afghanistan right now, Christians are being killed because they're taking a stand. And that's been going on over there in the Middle East for a long time. But God's okay with that. It's good to take a stand. I'm telling you, those people are going to heaven. And we don't understand them dying for their faith, but they weren't going to just forsake God just so they'd stay alive. But look, Proverbs 13:10 says, "Only by pride cometh contention, but with the well-advised is wisdom." So only by pride cometh contention. In that particular verse, contention is a negative thing to have. And it only comes by pride. The Bible tells us someone is exercising pride. And because of that, they got it because of contention. Let's put it into this kind of thing. Staying calm can make a huge difference. Is that right? Staying calm can make a huge difference. No matter what the situation is. Like I got bit by a copperhead. You're supposed to stay calm after you get bit by a snake. I did not stay calm. And that's bad because your blood gets to moving and it's worse. You don't want to get your blood moving. And I did everything wrong. I jumped around and screamed. I said I got bit by a snake. And then I drank a Diet Dr. Pepper on the way to the hospital, which actually is not good to put caffeine in your system when you just got bit by a snake because it just gets your blood moving more and everything like that. Now, I did call some people, and I was fairly calm on most of the phone conversations, but I'm just telling you, staying calm can make a huge difference. Basically, contention is the result of the lack of humility. A lot of people, the reason they get, mad or throw a fit or whatever it is because of pride. You hurt my pride. You made fun of me. And I'm perfect and great. Why would you ever make fun of me, right? And so we get contentious. Contention is produced out of foolish lips. Listen to Proverbs 18:6. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes. All right? Foolish words make things worse. Would you agree? I mean, we have perfect examples today. Like Donald Trump is contentious about things sometimes. He uses foolish words to try to stir people up. Would you agree with that? He comes up with nicknames for people just to get them riled up. I mean, that's his thing. What light was that? That one? That one?
Yep.
Okay. Because I have to remember, because when they do that, I need to change them, but sometimes they just won't do it. And,
Which light did you change last time?
I think the one over your head. Because this row, they're starting to go out randomly. And so occasionally I'll see which one it is, and then I can get it. I haven't seen any of the side ones ever do it yet, that I've noticed. But I've just seen the middle ones. But I think I'm going to go buy 10 of those this week just to have them on hand. And they're not that hard to change, but they're just, I wish they would just go out. I'd rather it just be dark right there than it'd be like strobe light, because that messes your head up, right? So, but we're talking, so in politics today, it's kind of a thing to be contentious, right? It's almost like a thing to just call, fool's lips enter into contention. People don't need to hear everything you think, right? That's the first thing you got to teach people is you don't say everything you think. Nobody needs to hear all that. It just makes things worse, and they don't. And it would do a lot of good for people of God and just hold their tongue, right? Sometimes it would help husbands and wives and churches, and it would help the country if some people just held their tongues. And, there were times when stuff wasn't talked about, and that was okay. Now it just seems like everybody's got to talk about everything, and I've got a friend that I went to high school with, and he's got a podcast, and it's called White Dude, Black Dude is what it's called, okay? And both of the guys went to high school with me, and they're friends. One's white, one's black, in case you're wondering, okay? And so they do a podcast, and they talk about, they love to talk about controversial stuff. You know, because they can get along and they're friends and they can do that. But I don't know that that's always good to do. It's like, I don't need to come up to everybody and just start talking about a controversial subject. So what do you think about abortion? You know, so what do you think about racism? You know, we don't have to discuss that every second of the day, right? Even though it's on the news every second of the day. And it just gets into, sometimes it's just contentious, right? But sometimes husbands and wives get into conversations they shouldn't get into, right? Sometimes parents and children start talking about things that maybe, if they think about it, say, this is a contentious thing, I might need to step back a little bit. You don't have to talk about everything. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes. Proverbs 18:19, a brother offended is harder to be won than a strong city, and their contentions are like the bars of a castle. So contention is offensive. When you're contentious with someone, it hurts the target, and it offends everybody in the situation, right? It's just there for that, you know. And we know what we're talking about. Like I said, I think sometimes we think it's funny to see contention happen. You know, have you ever watched contention happen on TV and you thought it was funny, right? And you know, sometimes that's what a comedy does. A comedy sets up a contentious situation. Does anybody watch Shark Tank? Okay. Sometimes on Shark Tank, you like the parts where they're being mean, right? You know, Mr. Wonderful is just like, take it out in the barn and shoot it. It's never going to work, you know. And so you enjoy hearing that and think it's funny. But in real life, those things don't help, right? Now that's TV, right? They're like Donald Trump when he was on The Apprentice. You're fired, you know. And we think that's, but you know, we're talking about real life here. We're not talking about TV. And we get to thinking it's funny, but in real life, when people are contentious with you, it's not funny. You know, it's not funny, and you probably can remember experiences where that happened. If you've ever gone somewhere to, you know, a business and the people were contentious, you remember that. If you've ever just was having a conversation with someone, they were contentious towards you, you remember that. You know, in fact, I mean, I've had some people, that was my first impression of them, they just were mean to me immediately, and I just kind of like didn't want to be around them after that, because I'm like, they're going to be mean to me every time I'm around them. If the first time I'm around them they're mean to me, I can't imagine. And then Proverbs 22:10, cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out, yea, strife and reproach shall cease. So it says, if you get rid of the scorner, contention will go out. And then here's the word I want to look at. It says, strife and reproach shall cease. So what contention between two people hurts testimony, and it gets rid of unity. And then, but if you get rid of the scorner, that's the first step, and then it helps get rid of reproach, because contention produces reproach. You know, I want you to think about it like this. Of course, you always want to fix any problem you can, but sometimes if there's a scorner involved, they just need to step out of the room, right? They need to step out of the situation, because a scorner, it's hard to do anything with a scorner there. You know, think about, like, if you ever seen Lean on Me, has anybody ever seen that movie? What's his name? I almost said Denzel Washington. Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman is, you know, he's a lot younger back then, but he was a teacher, and he would jump on desks, and you know, when he was teaching, and you know, he was pretty fiery for a teacher, and they hired him to be principal of a school that was just literally, you know, people were getting raped in the bathrooms. I mean, it was bad. Teachers were getting beat up in the hallway. So they needed some order there, and they knew this guy was the kind of guy. At this point, he was just the principal of elementary school. He was older, and I think he liked his job, but they came to him and they said, you know, of course, it's a true story. And they came to him and they said, if we don't do something, the school's going to close down, right? So we got to get it in order. And he came in there, and the first day in there, he had an assembly. It was a big high school. There was probably 200 or 300 people. He had their names listed to come on stage, and they came on stage. And he threw all of them out the first day. And he said, based on your grades and your conduct, I mean, some of you are selling drugs and getting caught selling drugs every day. Some of you haven't been to class, you know, you just roam the halls, whatever it is. He said, you had your chance, you're all kicked out, and kicked out all of them. In front of everybody, kicked out that many people. And, you know, of course, parents got really mad, and a lot of people got mad at him. But he turned that school around in 1 year. And he gave chances for people to get back in. And he gave them, if they were willing to work at it, he gave them chances. And he helped some people get through some things. And in the end, I mean, made some good relationships, made some good changes. And he was, you know, he was keeping drug dealers out of school was another thing. In other words, keeping the scorners away. You know, you got to be careful, because if you sometimes one person can get into a situation and they can just rip it up. They can mess it up real bad, because they just won't stop adding to the contention and trying to make more contention. And it produces reproach. Proverbs 23:29, who hath woe, who hath sorrow, who hath contentions, who hath babbling, who hath wounds without cause, who hath redness of eyes, they that tarry long at the wine, they that go to seek mixed wine. You know, in this verse, the word contention is being used with someone who's drunk. And I want you to think about it like this. You could say getting drunk and contention might go hand in hand. That's what it's saying, right? And so if you ever see someone drunk and they're contentious, then you know what being contentious means, right? I mean, it gives you a great example, and it just shows you alcohol, but you don't have to say alcohol. You can say drugs. I mean, you can say any mind-altering something can make you, like, being hangry. No, okay, anyway. But, I mean, just, it can make you more contentious, right? It can make you more contentious. I wonder if people have ever did some really bad things because they were on drugs, right? But they normally wouldn't have did. Maybe they killed somebody. Maybe they beat somebody up. Maybe they said things they shouldn't have said. Maybe they accidentally did something to somebody. Whatever it is, and I'm just telling you, contention goes, it's common around people who drink alcohol. It's common for drunk people to be contentious. And of course, we know that, right? Not all drunk people act like Otis in Mayberry, right? You know, he wasn't never really contentious. He was kind of goofy when he was drunk, right? But there are some drunk people that get very angry when they're drunk and get very mean. And honestly, the truth is, when you're on drugs, you'll attempt things physically that you would never do if you weren't on the drugs. And you won't even realize what you're doing. It's very dangerous, right? I mean, isn't this kind of a cliche thing, but you think of a bar fight, right? You think of a Western, you think of a bar fight. You know, people are drinking, and it just seems like anything can set them off if they're in the bar, right? They can just, and Christians that act with contention are acting like a bunch of drunks in a bar fight. That's what they're acting like, right? They're acting like people that their mind isn't all there. And we need to understand that I know this is, you know, think about it like this. I try to be a tough dad. Sometimes my kids, I'll say, get over it, or I'll say, you know, I don't care. You know, I guess I would have asked you about that if I cared, but I don't. You know, and sometimes I do stuff like that. But I want to say this. I do care about my kids and how they feel. And you should care about people and how they feel. You should take that into consideration. You should look at that. Because the truth is, there's things going on in this world that we don't understand, and things we've never went through, and we need to realize that when you're dealing with somebody, what they're going through, and what they've been through too, and think about it. Because if you're not careful, you'll cause some contention. Another one is Proverbs 26:21. As coals are to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. So as coals are to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. Contentious people turn small issues into big issues. That's like a coal, right? A coal is a very small fire. But if you start adding wood to it, then you kindle it, right? We talk about kindling. You add a little kindling to it, you add a little extra wood, and it starts into a big fire, right? You start a little bit of coals, and then all of a sudden you've got a huge, massive fire. And a contentious person makes things bigger. You know, that instead of like coming to a situation saying, here's a problem, I need to minimize the problem. They come into a problem and say, here's a problem, I'm going to maximize the problem. Like they see a fire and they start throwing gasoline on it, right? And they just make it worse, right? And I'll tell you, anytime you see any kind of problem, you should try to make it smaller. You should try to make it smaller. You shouldn't try to make it bigger. You know, there's a little guy was sitting in a restaurant drinking a soda, minding his own business. This big guy comes, knocks him right in the face. You know, big guy says, "That's a kung fu chop from China." And the little guy's shocked, but he gets back in his chair, starts drinking his drink. In a little while, the big guy hits him again and says, "That's a karate chop from Japan." You know, and the little guy, not wanting any trouble, thinking this guy's crazy, gets up, moves to another table, keeps drinking his drink. All of a sudden, he feels this foot kick him upside the head. He falls to the floor again. That says that was kickboxing from Thailand. Okay. So he's just going. So he gets up, cleans himself off, and he leaves. He was gone for about an hour. And anyway, he comes back in. He knocks the guy in the back of the head and knocks him cold out. You know, and he tells the waiter when the guy wakes up, tell him that was a crowbar from Sears. Okay. And but you know, the truth is, you don't want to make things worse. You know, like road rage. If somebody's having road rage with me, I just try to ignore it and just try to back off. I don't need to get killed because somebody needs to get to Starbucks faster or something. You know, I don't need that on my, on my tombstone. You know, the guy got killed because he got in a fight, because somebody was trying to get somewhere. I just don't have to do it. I don't want to add any more to it. You know, you got to be careful, because if you're not careful, people will fall off the handle. I mean, they will. And when I worked at Super 8, there was a guy, and apparently he was in trucking school, you know, over here at the college. They were doing certification to be a truck driver. And, you know, if you got into that school, they paid for you to stay at the hotel while you were taking the course and everything. Well, apparently his grades were really bad, and they were going to have to kick him out of the school and out of the hotel for some reason. You know, they're making us kick him out of the hotel. I don't know why they didn't just take care of it, whoever's paying the stuff, right? So we got to tell, because they got roommates too, right? So they still have that room, the guy wouldn't leave. So they're like, we're going to have to kick that guy out. So he's got to go tell them that he's getting kicked out of the force, right? And he can't stay in the hotel anymore. So the foolish thing was, now I didn't get to work till later because I came in on the 3 o'clock shift that night. But they had already packed his bags up and put it in the lobby while I was at school. You know, which that probably wasn't the nicest thing to do. You know, he probably wasn't too happy the fact they were just packing his bags. They were going to let him go back to the room. So he shows up in the lobby and his bags are packed out there. He's a little bit upset. You know, so I got to say something to him, right? And so I'm trying to not be the one to tell him, because they didn't tell me to tell him. I just happened to be there, you know. And it's kind of hard to explain. What I was basically trying to do is keep the contention down. That was my goal. Well, anyways, the manager there, she did not keep the contention down, and she came out, and she started talking to him, and it was not good. So we had to get Jesus Coronado in the mix before it said that, you know. But he was not happy. The contention level was going up. Now, what I would have done, I'd say, listen, you know, I got to give you some bad news. Why don't we go grab a bite to eat and talk about it, right? And he would have thought that was weird, but he might have took me up on it, and I'd say, look, the problem is your grades aren't too good, and they're telling you you're going to have to reapply, and you're not going to get to stay. You know, I would do my best to keep the contention down, but the manager was just like, listen, you failed out of school, and you got to get out of here. You're not getting paid for it anymore. And then and let me tell you, I definitely want to keep the contention down, because he was way bigger than me. Okay, and he was way bigger than me, and I was just like, I don't want to get hit by this guy. Okay, and now when Jesus Coronado showed up, he tried to keep the contention down. He tried to calm him down. He tried to explain to him, look, no big deal, we're not going to press any charges. It's just, you know, let's figure things out, figure out how where you need to go, and who's going to give you a ride and all this stuff, you know. And tried to, so as coals are to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. don't make things worse. Don't come into a situation and go, all right, how can I explode this bigger than it even is? Okay, how can I make this worse? Also, being contentious, it says in Isaiah 41:12, thou shalt seek them and shalt not find them, even them that contended with thee. They that war against thee shall be as nothing and as a thing of naught. Now, if you read the whole chapter, you'll see what it's saying is actually saying is, if you're not careful, if you be contentious with preachers too much, one day you'll want a preacher and you won't find a preacher. And that's basically what it's saying in Isaiah. Because what it'll do is, and this is talking about the good contention, someone that was contending with thee, someone's trying to help you, and if you're not careful, you'll end up running them to the point where they won't ever help you, and you won't find anyone to help you. And I'll tell you, you can see that if you've been in the ministry very long, you can see people all over, and I've got other preachers that have so many stories, and it's just sad to see how someone will get contentious against them. They'll try to make things right. The preacher will tell them they're sorry or whatever, what can I do for you? It just seems like the hatred is there, and it ends up tearing, sometimes these people's families get tore apart because they won't just move on. But like it said earlier, contentions are like bars of a castle. All right? If it goes on too long, it could be like, just think of bars of the castle. It could be just like a prison, right? It could be an immovable thing, you know. But here's the thing. Proverbs 21:19 says it's better to dwell in the wilderness than with a contentious and an angry woman. And I mean, if you don't believe me, just ask a man who's going through it. I mean, he'd rather be in the deer stand than come with a contentious wife, right? And what's funny is, and I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just saying the Bible specifically talks about women being contentious a few times. Like it specifically says a continual dropping in a very rainy day and a contentious woman are alike, right? Drip, 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 drip. You know, like Chinese water torture, right? Okay, you ever seen Chinese water torture? You know, a foolish son is the calamity of his father, and the contentions of a wife are continual dropping, is another one. It's probably 1913. So, contention is something that women have to watch out for, all right? I think men have to watch out for it too, right? But I'm just saying there's times in the Bible, and specifically sometimes the Bible is saying contention between a husband and a wife has to be watched out for. And I don't know, I mean, many times ladies seem a little more emotional, so sometimes ladies can get their feelings hurt more, you know. And it's good. If you have a spouse that calms you down, that's good. That's a plus, right? But I'll tell you, there's some people who have spouses that don't calm them down, right? Just elevated. I'm thankful for my wife. She calms me down even though she doesn't think she does. She's like, that's calming me down. She said, listen, we could be like Bonnie and Clyde if it were, you know, if she was any worse, we'd be that. But she can calm me down simply because she stays calm in situations I don't stay calm in. You know, it says in Titus 3:9, but avoid foolish questions and genealogies and contentions and strivings about the law, for they are unprofitable and vain. 1 Corinthians 11:16. But if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the churches of God. Tell people, listen, if any man seem to be contentious, we have no such custom, neither the churches of God. You can tell people what the Bible says, but you don't have to start an argument to do it. You know, it's not always an argument. If God, you know, there's times in your life you do have to say, hey, well, the Bible tells me to do this, so I'm going to do this. There's times you have to take a stand like that, but you don't have to do it in a mean way, and you don't have to gripe them out. You don't have to add fuel to the fire, right? And the truth is, contention can be bad because if you're not careful, you'll start contending with God about stuff. Like God will tell you something and you'll contend with Him. And that's the worst place you can be in. So just take that study of contention, of the word contend, think about it, think how you can apply it somewhere in your life. One of the things that it helps when you're dealing with kids, Ruth do children's church or whatever, what you find out is there's no sense in fighting with a kid. You are the leader. You just tell them what they're supposed to do, tell them what the rules are, and follow through on what you said, right? Because the truth is, it's not a discussion, it's like, hey, if I told you to sit still and you didn't sit still, and because of that you don't get candy, then you just don't get candy. It's not a fight, it's not I'm mad at you, it's just, this was the rule, let's follow, right? And when I get pulled over, and I have many times for speeding, I don't contend with the police officer about it. I admit that I was speeding, because he knows I was speeding. Many times I've not got a ticket just because I was honest. Why were you speeding, Mr. Bain? Well, I really got to go to the bathroom, if you want to be honest. Okay, and he'd say, okay, well listen, go find your bathroom, make go the right speed limit, let me go. And so there's been many times I've been pulled over. One time I was going to see Miss Ruth when we were dating, and the speed limit was 55, and I was going 75. That's a little fast, that's a little over the speed limit. And the cop pulled me over, and I said, I only see my girlfriend once a week. So I was on the way to see her. I kind of didn't pay attention, and he said, okay, and he wrote me a ticket. So, I didn't get out of that one. That was a little too fast, right? But just don't contend. You're better off. You're better off on some things. State the truth. State what you need, but you don't have to fight. You don't have to add fight to it. God, I love you, and I pray you bless us. Help these kids that got saved, Lord. Help us to be just praying for them and helping them. Help us be there for them and be able to teach them. And I just pray you be with church today. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, I can take a break. The kids are too quiet. They're probably outside.
Who was the Jacorian kid that got saved Wednesday?
Yeah,
He's
what?
a cousin.
He's cousin.
You
I
know,
think.
Sorry. Now that Jacorian